back to another episode of World Bigfoot Radio, coming to you live from the Rocky Mountains in western Montana. And once again, we're on the subject of western Montana, specifically finishing up all of the details on what happened with all the summertime expeditions we did this year. And we're finishing up with Michael Matt, who actually has been on several, a couple of them at least. He's going on the third one this coming weekend here. We're going back up to the Skalkaho, and he's going with us. But he went up to Blue Mountain with me, and he went to Coloma. And so with that, let me.
Hey, Duke, how's it going? It's an honor being here.
Great having you on the show, man. Technical problems here. This isn't the first time we tried to record this one, so we're keeping our fingers crossed here this time. Yeah, it was another one of those situations where Michael isn't somebody that I've known for a long time or anything. He's a listener to the show, and he just recently moved from a different part of Montana to Missoula. He hasn't even been living here for a year yet. And then at some point he realized I'm actually in town, got a hold of me, and wanted to go out squatching. And I said, yeah, let's go sometime. Well, then lo and behold, he calls me one day at like 6 in the afternoon and says, let's go squatching. And I'm going, there isn't a whole lot of time to get anywhere and do anything before the sun goes down. But yeah, come get me. So
it is an honor to finally meet you after listening to your show for a while. And then you're like, okay. And so we started driving, and you're like, yeah, I've camped out here before, had some activity, but it's normally dry out here and probably won't see much of anything. But because of the extra rainfall and flooding that we'd gotten, there was still some runoff water that was up there. And we even had to cross a little stream, a little creek to go squatching. But it was amazing. It didn't take too long. We actually found our first footprint up there. I should say my first footprint. It was exhilarating. Like, wow, this stuff is actually out here. And, just keep going and finding signs. There was overturned rocks everywhere we went. And these aren't little rocks. They're, good sized little boulders, up to 1-2 feet across. And we were like, well, that's kind of curious. There's no claw marks. You'd think if it was a bear, because a mountain lion isn't going to be overturning rocks. Wolves aren't going to do it. There was no deer or elk that's going to be doing it, and a raccoon couldn't move those. So I'm kind of whittled out the possible answer of what had been, and it's like, well, something with hands and opposable thumbs could have picked this up and moved it. And like I said, there was no claw marks, so I was kind of curious.
yeah, we were wandering all over that area, and it was like a whole series of little meadows, with trees in between. And every time we'd go through a line of trees and come out in the next little meadow, it'd be the same thing with all the rocks in the meadow would all be overturned already. Somebody was already running around there, turning everything over. And after I found that first initial track, after we stepped over a log and pointed it out to Michael, it wasn't like very much after that. He found a second track all by himself. And then we found a bunch of these rocks. We went across the little stream, like you were saying, because I found a travel route that the local up there apparently had been using quite a bit. And we went up on top of a little hill here, and that's where the bent over arch tree was that you guys see the picture of me standing in front of that with my mountain lion be gone equipment. And yeah, and then from there we went and kind of worked our way back. And on the way back, I was distracted looking at some broken elk bones from I think it was a hind leg. And Michael's looking around on the ground. He says, "Hey, Duke, come on over here and look at this." And sure enough, he found a couple of really beautiful knuckle prints. One of them was just excellent, and the other one was pretty obvious as well. And these were, again, just about the right size to go with the individual that we had probably found the tracks of earlier, just 15 and a half inches. And the knuckle print wasn't too much bigger than what a normal human would make, so probably just about the right size. And man, that's like the first knuckle prints I've ever found here in Montana. And I didn't find them, Michael found them.
Yeah, well, and it's really hard ground we have up here, so leaving any tracks whatsoever is, you got to be really heavy. I mean, we couldn't leave indentations. I mean, unless of course it was raining and muddy, but it wasn't.
Well into bed at the point where he left those there, it was raining and muddy, because when we found them, they were baked solid like concrete. You could if they might even still be there actually. As far as that goes, we haven't had a whole ton of rain since then. But apparently in the spring when it was muddy, he made them, and then it got baked nice and solid, and they were still there when we got up there. And
Yeah,
generally
it
that
was,
time of the year there isn't any water up there. I didn't know if there'd be much of any activity. I just, it was it's really close by and we can get there in time before we run out of sunlight, so let's go there sort of thing. And then thinking that maybe we'd find some older tracks or something, but with the water still running there, there was still one of them that was hanging around there, and we started to find evidence of them. And again, great find on those knuckle prints, man. That was really cool, really cool.
well, that was like a needle in the haystack, and I found it.
Yeah, no kidding. That I'm looking for the human, vaguely humanoid shape, but too big to be a human impressions in the ground. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not really.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just goes to prove that that they're knuckle walkers like other great apes. That there's nothing else that's going to be walking around leaving human-like fingerprints out there. It wasn't like a paw from a bear. It wasn't two elk hooves stamped right next to each other. It was perfect indentation for fingers. And I think there was one picture got kind of a side profile of one of the indentations, and it has a little ridge, a little peak in there. I mean, those are fingers.
Oh yeah. Well, you can see where I got my hands facing adjacent to it, and I got my hand down with the knuckles down, sort of the same it would have had. And that's really obvious when you look at that one. It's like, oh, okay, I can tell what I'm looking at here. But we found that handprint weeks later down at the Blackfoot when I was down there at Bear Downey, and that one had actually laid his whole hand flat on the ground and left a looked like giant sized human handprint.
Well, it just confirms everything that people are saying. Like Baron Kumbo, they're like, well, they're knuckle walkers. Most of the time they're probably on all fours, and it's probably why we don't recognize them up here. We have these big bears that they're about similar size. People probably see these things, and they're probably like, oh, it's probably just a bear. Because
Yeah,
all I see is this dark figure on all fours scurrying off in the woods, and it wasn't an elk, it wasn't a deer, that must have been a bear.
yeah, exactly. Well, what else would they think it is? Because Bigfoot doesn't exist or anything, so it can't
Nope,
be that.
nope.
The next time you got to get together with us, you actually missed the meet and greet. You couldn't make it that weekend, but you could make it the following weekend up to the Coloma
Mm-hmm.
adventure. So you decided to risk life and limb and come with us to a Bigfoot infested ghost town and spend the
Yep.
weekend. And as we recounted before, you and the other Travis and Jeff all pulled up about the same time, like around 5:30 or so. Set up your tents, went hiking around the town, and all of you promptly came back with pictures of tracks and made us feel bad. So you can take over from there and let us know what that was like for you. Did you have trouble finding the place?
Oh no, actually it popped up on my Google Maps and I just followed it. It's like, turn here, turn here. And even though there wasn't any signs pointing anywhere, I come up upon your encampment and there you are. You're walking out to meet me and say hello. And I'm like, all right, I'm in the right spot.
First impression when you saw Coloma, what did you think of
It was kind of creepy, but it was just really just cool, just seeing all these collapsed, cabins from 100+ years ago or whatever. Was it like late 1800s, early 1900s when they were running it? It's just seeing part of our history of this area. How it would, people were there, they were doing their thing, and then they just disappeared.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, kind of creepy, but it was just really beautiful up there. You're up in the mountains, you got the trees, got the beautiful scenery. You can look out over the valley, and it was just gorgeous. It was fun to go up there. But you'd taken your bike and went around part of the mountain on the trail, and shortly after you got back, I was like, you know what? I want to go walk and see if I can find anything. So you pointed me up to the direction of the standing rocks, and I would make my way up there and go around. I kind of wandered off the trail for a little while, and I was like, I should probably go back because it started going down to some deep woods. I was like, there's no trail. I'm not going to go down there. I was like, there's no way Duke rode his bike up through this. So I was like, I better go back. And I found the trail again, and I ended up stumbling upon that hunting shed or whatever that they brought up, and I kind of snooped around that. It kind of looks like it's been deserted for a little bit. But I saw where you'd come from, and then I saw this other trail leading off into the forested area, and I was like, I'm gonna come check out this trail just for a little bit. start walking down it, and I just kind of got this eerie feeling like, nope, I should probably stop right here and turn around. And and I actually kept going for a little bit, but that feeling just kept getting stronger. It was just like, just stop, turn around. Let's not go in there. That's a no zone.
Yeah.
But I ended up like finding this dead little tree and just like pushing it over, and then kind of trying to strut my stuff, trying to show like, yeah, I'm an alpha. What's up? I've I've heard like a lot of predators, if you're showing confidence, they see it, they feel it. Like if you're timid and scared, they can sense that. So I felt like if I stand up upright and showed a little bit of strength, that they're like, maybe probably not the easiest meal. Probably just let them go. So I did that and got back on the trail, and I was following your bike track you left in the dirt, and all of a sudden I hear a noise off to my left, and I look over, and there's a single cow just grazing right there, and I was like, huh, that's kind of funny. So I was kind of talking to the cow, just walking down the trail, and then I started making this weird squeaky noise that I do and my sister does and my brother-in-law does. And I mean, I don't know why, but I was just doing it. And then I hear some rustling in this brush that's right next to me. I can't see anything in there because it was kind of thick. I just hear some, footsteps, and it's just thud, thud, thud. And next thing you know, there's a whole herd of cows that just popped up out of there. I was like, oh, what's going on? What's going on? What did I piss off? But no, they just kind of got up, and I didn't see any of them, and they were, it was right there. I mean, it just, kind of proves like if Sasquatch was there, you wouldn't have seen him. I mean, you had these cows that are, 1,200 pounds. Didn't see one of them, and all of a sudden, boom, there they are.
Yeah, they're not very good at hiding either. They're lousy
No,
compared
they're
to
loud.
Bigfoot.
Exactly. But I just kept walking, and I saw the road for where we had to turn up to get to the camp out in the distance. I was like, well, I know where I'm at now, but I'm not going to find any tracks if I just stay on this road right here. So I decided to cut up the hill on the right and go through the woods. And I wasn't sure if I was going to find anything. We were pretty close to the camp. But then I ended up seeing one footprint, and I was like, wow. So I took a picture of it, thinking it was going to be the one footprint in this whole area. And just like 4 or 5 feet, in front of it, there was another one. So I took a picture of that one. And I was like, all right, well, that was kind of lucky. And then took like another 4 or 5, 6 feet, there's another one. And these tracks were like 17 inches long. I mean, they're a good size. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. And so I just kind of kept scouring the area. I ended up finding one that was like 12 inches long, about the size of my foot. And then I found another one of the 17 inches that was, a little bit deeper into substrate there. And I think you got a picture of my knuckle.
Yeah, that's you took the nice picture with your finger in the track to
showing
show
how deep it was. It was like an inch and a half into the ground there.
And
I was like,
I went back over there where he found that track, and I was standing right next to it, and I wasn't making any impression on the ground.
exactly. And I'm about 250 pounds. I wasn't making a dent. So I mean, this thing must have been at least 500 pounds.
Yeah, it had to be good and twice our weight in order to make an impression like that. So definitely wasn't a human.
So I was getting closer to the camp. I could hear you guys talking, and as I was getting pretty close, I hear, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh, they probably hear me." And I'm like, "Don't worry, it's just me." I come walking down the hill, and I think it was
Travis.
yeah, it was Travis who's standing there like getting ready to take a picture or something. Like here comes a Sasquatch. Here he comes. We got him. I was like, no, just me, guys. It's okay. Calm down. Put your knife away.
Yeah.
But that was my adventure of walking out and finding some evidence. But they were definitely out there.
Yeah, simultaneously, while you were doing that, they were down in the little valley down below the hill that you were looking at, and they were finding tracks down there. So there you go. So everybody burning ban, we couldn't have a campfire. Mm-hmm. So we had a little space heater there that was throwing a nice orange glow in one direction only.
Yep.
And for a while we were watching Jeff's EMF meter doing weird things. And then it got dark, and we started noticing a lot of movement in the woods around us. I'm sure you heard more of it than I did. I'm kind of deaf.
Oh yeah,
Um,
heard some shuffling around up there on that one slag pile, and then there was some on the opposite side, and which would be a good military or espionage kind of thing, like flanking, so you can have sights from all angles. But yeah, you could hear shuffling up there and down in the brush that was kind of across from the trail or the road or whatever.
in on something over there to the north of us, and then started growling and just kind of laid down and kept watching it for about 20 minutes. That was really epic creepy.
And didn't you say that that dog doesn't really
Never does
cue in
anything
on
like
stuff?
that.
Yeah.
No, no. The only thing it'll bark at is like a human or something bigger than a human. It's not even really that interested in deer. We got deer around the yard all the time, so it doesn't even bark at them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, whatever had its attention had the dog's full attention. And I think judging by if you watch part two and part three, and now in this part you're going to get to see it again in even slower motion. The eye shine they found when they were walking up to the standing stones later on should probably give you an indication of what the dog was probably growling at. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as that goes, that was sort of like a little that we sort of said, it'd be kind of fun. You guys should go up to the standing stones there at exactly midnight and get some EMF meter readings. And I kind of remember you, Michael, going, "Yeah, that's a great idea," and kind of
This
like
is the
almost double dog daring them. And then
Yeah,
they
do
looked
it.
at
It's
each other
witching
like,
hour.
okay, let's do that. And Travis is looking like Jeff, like, "Are you freaking serious?"
I don't want to do this.
But they did it, and they walked through the scary woods, and they accidentally filmed Bigfoot eye shine apparently, and then they got up
Yeah.
there and filmed the EMF meter doing weird things, and had the thing go off again on the way back, pretty much right where they had filmed the eye shine on the way up, and then all the audio captured and everything. So they had their big adventure. Now we got worried about them because they were gone for like what, a good 40 minutes, and we didn't see the flashlight going or anything for a while there.
Quiet, because when they first got up there, I mean, you could see the beam, flash back and forth, and you could hear them talking a little bit, and then it just kind of got quiet. And I was like, all right, well, we'll let them do their thing, but it just stayed quiet, and there was no flashlight, no nothing. And I was like, if they don't come back in 5 minutes, we should probably go up there and check on them, because it's been a while since they've been up, been back here. So
The woods over to the base of the incline up to the standing stones is when they were coming back and weren't sure which direction to go. And fortunately saw our flashlights and went, "Oh, I guess we should be going that way," because they were about to walk right into the damn woods that had the Bigfoot and all the ruined shacks in it that we could hear all the time, right? Oh
mm-hmm.
God, so glad they didn't do that. They almost made that mistake.
I should chime in with my little tent.
Yeah, that was fun too. Tell us about that one.
I got this. It's like a 7-person tent. It's a teepee design. It's like a hexagonal, base, but it's only got 2 poles, and they lock in place with tension with this little spring-loaded button. Well, I had it, all set up, and it had been fine for most of the evening there. And it's about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. It's getting kind of dark, but we could still kind of see, but still need a little bit of light to make sure we weren't going to trip on anything. Well, we're sitting there chatting around the heater there, and all of a sudden we see my tent can do a half collapse, kind of shake. You hear a boom, and we all just kind of jump and like jerk our heads around, like, what the hell is that? Are they coming in early and trying to intimidate us?
Yeah,
Holy
because it wasn't even quite dark yet. It was just turning twilight, and all of a sudden the tent just goes. Boom. We're like, "What the hell?"
It was. I mean, that made my heart skip a beat. I don't know about you guys, but
Yeah.
I about had to change my undies, I tell you. But we get the light and get over there, and it was just one of the buttons had collapsed, and so one of the 2 poles was leaning, so that kind of answered that. But it was kind of a sudden fright, almost excitement kind of moment.
Yeah, it was interesting timing. Your tent decides to just all on its own collapse
Yeah,
right
let's just
around dark.
talk about Bigfoot, and it's getting dark, and all of a sudden, it scares you and die.
It was probably one of them over in the woods threw a rock at it or something. So yeah, so anyway, you then dare those guys to go up there to the Standing Stones, and they come back, and shortly after they got back, I was giving up on it because the pain in my back was getting to be so bad, I had to go lay down. And then they went back and retired to their camp, and you guys went about an hour later and went to
Like 1:10 in the morning, and Shane and I were up talking and just swapping some stories and stuff, and finally the propane ran out, and he's like, well, it's after 2, we should probably call it a night. And I was like, yeah, I'm getting tired. So he's crawling in the back of his truck with a little topper on it, and I crawl into my tent and zip it up and get under my covers and turn out my light, and just laying there, and it's quiet for a couple seconds, maybe a minute, and then I hear this, it sounded like a crunching of leaves or needles. It's just a. I was like, what was that? That wasn't coming from the direction of any of you guys, and I didn't see you guys, sneaking out. And then a couple seconds later, I was like, oh, that's footsteps. And then a couple seconds later again, it's like something's trying to be sneaky, but you have all this, dried needles and leaves and stuff. It's kind of hard to sneak up, even if you are, an expert like Sasquatch. But it's just every like 5-10 seconds was another step. And I was like, this thing sounds like it's getting closer and closer and closer. And there was enough moonlight where I felt like I was going to see a hand, reach out, or a shadow. You've heard some of these stories on these podcasts or whatever, where they see the shadow and the hand touches down and pushes in the tent. And I was like, oh, great, I'm going to have one of these encounters. I'm not ready for this. But yeah, and I was like, here, we're gonna pop your chair. We're just gonna push in your tent and mess with you right now. Not even gonna give you 5 minutes to go to sleep. But no, I didn't see any shadows creeping around the tent, but I could hear it walking around out in the brush. And I was probably up for another hour or two just listening to the footsteps, and then some silence and more shuffling around. I eventually fell asleep because it became quiet. But first thing I did when I woke up, I remembered it, and I was like, I wonder. So I go out there and I head up in the direction where I heard some of the noise, and sure enough, I found this one footprint, and then it led to where it had taken a step and then planted its other foot. So it was like standing with its 2 feet, side by side, and it was right behind this good-sized pine tree, to where if it looked one direction, it would be looking right at my tent. If it leaned out the other direction to peek out, it'd be looking right at your tent and Shane's truck, and it could even see across the road over to the other guy's tent. So it could see everything, the entire encampment, just behind this tree, just leaning one direction or the other. And then, those were, I think, the 17-inch tracks, and it's like somebody was kind of big.
They were kind of in a position to watch everybody in camps.
Yep. Watch while somebody else is bugging. The other guys over there, they're gonna go mess with them. I'm just gonna keep watch, make sure these guys don't get up.
Surprises me is how brazen they were. I mean, you weren't even asleep yet. You just like got in your tent 10 minutes earlier, not even, and they're trying to sneak up on you already.
Expecting. I was hoping for to hear something. I was not expecting it. Like lights out, and a minute later, it starts trying to creep in. I was not expecting that quick of a response, and it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, well, I had my tent sitting in the same place it was 3 years previous when I was there, and had one shaking my tent. So yeah, creepy indeed. Creepy place. So anyway, we survived the night. You got up in the morning, found more tracks, and we did some watching on the way out. We saw a few things from the road, and like one thing was a tree snap. We went up the hill and followed that up the mountain, and we found another little access road further up. And from the access road, you could see there was another snap further up that was on the other side of a barbed wire fence, so we couldn't go in and look at it.
Yep.
So we had to give up on that trail. So that was pretty much all the rest of what happened that day, except for lots of driving around, heading back and stuff. But the
Hmm.
epilogue to this whole story is that you went back there camping with your family the next weekend. Let us
Yes,
know
I
what
did.
happened there.
All right. Well, I told my wife, I was like, hey, why don't we go camping? We haven't really got to go camping this year. And she's like, all right, where do you want to go? I was like, well, there's a place not too far from the first place I went squatching that had a nice little camping area you can go at. And it's not too far from town. And she's like, well, what about that place you went last weekend? I was like, Coloma, the ghost town? She's like, yeah. She's like, I want to see the ghost town. I want to go there and I want to go to the other ghost town. I just want to see it all. I was like,
Oh God.
well, it's kind of creepy. I had stuff happen. I was like, but there was no imminent danger. I was like, I suppose we could try. And so we pack up and get up there, set up camp, and I show the kids, the fallen structures, and showed them the standing rocks, and they were enthralled. They're like, "This is the coolest thing," and I was like, well, you guys, it's like 9 o'clock at night. It's starting to get dark out. I was like, let's get back. Let's go feed you guys and let's go to bed. Like, okay. And so we do that. We go back there, make some sandwiches, and we eat. And then we get all settled down. And my wife and I were on a queen size air mattress inside the same tent. And then our daughter's kind of at the head part of the mattress by herself. And then we got her 8-year-old son and my 6-year-old son, sleeping next to each other on the side. And then we have our, at the time, like month and a half, 2-month-old baby in bed with us. Well, she was feeding him, and he started fussing. I don't know if he had gas or whatever, but he was fussing, and he started like screaming, and you could hear it actually reverberating through the trees in the canyon. And I was like, I can hear this echoing. I was like, it is dead silent. This is going to draw something in. I don't know if it's going to be a bear or a mountain lion or, Sasquatch. I don't know what it's going to draw in, but you can hear it echoing. And I was like, we got to get him quiet. We can't have him screaming. And she's like, well, I'm trying. And so finally I was like, here, let me hold him. And I was able to rock him to sleep. And I didn't want to wake him up. So I just, kept holding him and, let her go to sleep. And just, I was in this uncomfortable position, so I couldn't fall asleep. So I was just listening to everything going on around me. And I heard, an owl, and I heard a raven, and I heard a little bit of shuffling, but nothing got up and in person with the tent. But I was definitely keeping my ears open and was praying that nothing would happen because I got my family there and I'm against the tent, and so I can't just spring up into action and try and protect my family if something was to happen because I was farthest from the door or something was going to try and come in.
Right.
But so I'm laying there holding my son and letting her sleep, and like I said, about 4-5 o'clock in the morning, the baby kind of wakes up. He's hungry again, and so she wakes up so she can feed him, and they fell back asleep, so I was able to sleep for a little bit, and then about 6:30, 7 o'clock comes around, and we all kind of wake up. It's getting sunny out and warm, and we're getting all packed up, and she's like, I had to go pee last night, but I heard there was zero crickets going on because around 12:30, 1 o'clock, the crickets just stopped. There was nothing going on. But she's like, I didn't hear a single cricket, not a single noise. I did not want to get up and go bathroom and have a Sasquatch there standing there watching me pee.
Wise choice, grasshopper.
And I was like, I had to go bathroom too, and I had that exact same thought. I was like, there are no crickets. There's no way I'm getting out of this tent.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, next thing you
but
know, you'll be having your Bigfoot sighting like Shane did when he got up to take a whiz in the middle of the night and so on.
no,
One
thank
week
you.
earlier in the exact same place. Yeah.
Exactly. But we got up, we survived the night, we packed up, and so we go from Coloma, and we're heading up to Garnet to the ghost town that they actually preserved and keeping and conditioned. But along the way, I was kind of road squatching, and that's when I found that tree structure, that X. And, I was going slow, about 15, 20 miles an hour, because I didn't want to kick up dust and, loosen or rattle my suspension. But there it was. And I wasn't sure if I saw it at first, so I quickly pulled over, looked out, and there it was. It's like a perfect X. I mean, exact same size trees. There was some bark missing from the middle of one of the trees where they met. And I got up there, and I was like, all right, I'm going to take some pictures. So I took a picture from like the road, and then I walked up underneath the X, took a couple of pictures, and I kind of got this feeling that something had me pinned in its sights, like I was being watched. So I just kind of looked around, didn't see anything. I was like, I should probably head back. We got stuff to do, and I got my family in the car waiting for me. Don't want something grabbing me while they were just waiting. So I was walking back, and I was like, I should probably, see if I can find any tracks. I mean, there's obviously a structure here. There's probably something that made it big.
Yeah, those are some whoppers there, dude. I question whether that's a mountain giant or not because they're humongous.
I'm thinking they probably were, because those were like 22 inches, 23 inches long. Those were massive. And I mean, something that big would probably have to be at least, 13, 14 feet tall.
Yeah, I mean, with a foot that size, I'd say 10 minimum.
I mean, you got some stick Indian running around there.
Yeah, pretty much what I'm guessing too. And it's too bad they weren't a little bit fresher, so you could be for sure about how many toes there are. But it does.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I took those pictures and got back into the car. And as soon as I was getting in the door, I hadn't even buckled up. My wife's like, our daughter said that she felt like she was being watched, and I did too.
Oh God.
And I was like, well, I was over there taking pictures, and I, stood up erect and felt like I was being watched. And so I was like, that's when I was kind of like, I should probably hurry up and get out of here.
Yeah, especially if the mountain giant is the one that's watching it. You pick up your vehicle and walk off with it. Nobody will ever see you.
Here's a traverse for you. You're mine now.
Well, I mean, look at the beginning. The first episode, we were talking about that 10 or 12-inch thick tree that was completely snapped off and missing. That's a lot of weight. Something that can do that can probably pick up a car and walk off with it too. You know what I mean? So, wow, scary stuff, man. Well, just to let everybody know, like I said, we're actually getting ready to head out again this weekend. It'll be me, Jeff, Travis, and Michael, possibly one other person. And we're going up to the Skull Hole this time. So if we find some interesting stuff up there, there might just be a fall expedition episode.
Ooh.
But, if not, then we won't waste your time with it. But thanks for being on the show and helping to finish up the summer expedition wrap up. Really had a great time getting out squashing with you, and I'm sure we're going to be having some more fun here this coming weekend. And was there anything else you wanted to add? Just go to go squashing with you, but actually just meeting you, and it's even a greater honor to be on your show. And I probably sound like a babbling idiot, and my family's probably gonna laugh at me when I air it, and let them listen to it. They're probably gonna laugh and be like, "Dad, you're an idiot." I'm like, "Yep, I am." No, actually, the honor is all mine because this is just the best possible thing for me because I got people that have enough faith that I actually know what I'm talking about, that they get a hold of me, and then they have enough faith when I say, let's go squatching, that they go out in the woods with me, give me the benefit of the doubt, and then they start seeing things. And then they start realizing that I'm not kidding, and I do know what I'm talking about, and now I'm going to show you how to find Bigfoot signs so you can go do it too. And then you can scare yourself all the time. You don't need me to do it for you. Who needs to go see a scary movie in theaters when you can go squatching? That'll scare your britches right off. Yeah, that's it. I mean, it doesn't matter how scary the movie in the theater is. It's never going to compare to the scariness of finding a 22-inch freaking track in the woods yourself, and you're standing there by yourself looking at it going, oh God, what made this? And where is it right now? It's watching me, obviously. Yeah, well, it sounds like somebody was watching and they maybe weren't too happy you were there, apparently, judging from the sort of reaction you were getting. Cat, I was reading on or maybe I just heard it, but apparently the X structure means like, stay out, this area is kind of guarded. This is our area. Thank you one final time for being on the show, and hopefully we'll have you on the show here again in the future if we can find some more squatchy stuff. All right, brother. Well, meanwhile, all the
Thank
rest
you.
of you folks out there, you have yourselves a great week. Be kind to each other. Safety first, last, and always. Pay it forward. Don't blow kisses at mountain giants and trolls. Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't punt the puck, would you? And whatever you do, God help you, do not hug the Wookiee. See you next week.